Hey, what is up guys? In this video, I'm going to be teaching you 3 weird chess rules that every chess player should know. So I hope you enjoy and let's get started. En passant, or pass the pawn, is probably the weirdest chess rule there is. Like, I just don't know why it exists. I mean, pawns can take how they can take. Why is en passant a thing? Like, let's say you're in this position and you don't know what en passant is, and you're under attack, a lot of pressure, and let's say you hang a pawn. H5, you might just hang a pawn, not noticing that it takes, or you might notice that it takes, but then you think like G6, or I just thought up a random position. This is not a very good example, but you blunder the pawn, not knowing what en passant is. And here there's the weird move. White, or G takes H6. I know you're like, this pawn just did magic out here. Like a new style of chess, new history, like blown minds here. And I know it seems really weird, especially if you have no clue like what en passant is. And it's it it is what it is. Okay, we're not gonna end the clip on that. It is what it is. But the point is, when there's a pawn that, like, a pawn on his starting square can move 2 tiles, right? And when there's a pawn that can take on h6, if the opponent moved h6, then they can still take that pawn. So when a pawn moves 2 tiles, but the opponent could have taken that pawn with another pawn if it only went 1 tile, then they can still take that pawn regularly. Like, there. And then the pawn disappears because it's theoretically taken, and then we just move on with life, but there's a pawn on h6, and there's no pawn on h5. And I'm warning you, like in this position, if you miss this en passant, then you're just screwed, because, this pawn's under attack, and if you take, then, yeah, this isn't very pretty. There's this, but this is not great. But the point isn't this position. You're probably never going to get this position in your life. But the point is, that's what en passant is. When somebody moves a pawn 2 tiles up, but if they went 1 tile up, we could have taken, then we can still take it. And only with a pawn. For the record, this can only be done with a pawn. If a queen could have taken it, if it went 1 tile, then en passant is a thing. It's pass the pawn in English, because it's a pawn passing another pawn. It can't be a piece, or a pawn passing a piece. It has to be a pawn passing a pawn. So, yeah, that's en passant. Threefold repetition can be a really nice moves in some positions, and a really annoying and really, like, a bad for you rule in some positions, because you can use it to kind of trick your opponent into getting a draw in a losing position, but you can also get a draw in a winning position. Like in this position, where theoretically this is just a draw. Like, the pawns cover each other, so this is like a weird kind of endgame, and technically it's not 1000% a draw because of, like, rook, or if this rook takes the pawn, then something can happen, but it's probably not gonna happen. And let's say your opponent is low on time, so you don't want the draw that he's offering right now. So you just try to move your king back and forth, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you just want to win by time, like we keep going back and forth, but you're gonna like lose on time earlier. And thing about this is you have to be really careful because you have to go quick yourself to not lose on time yourself. And when going quickly, you can make this mistake a lot. Whether you know what threefold repetition is, whether you don't know, I've screwed up like this so many times when I knew what threefold repetition is and never when I didn't. But the point is, as in the name, it's when the same two moves happen 3 times in a row. Like here, if this happens some more, I think, or I can't count to 3, so yeah. If this happened, at least these two moves happened 3 times in a row, so 6 of the same moves, then it's automatically a draw. And this isn't a super weird rule, because, I mean, it makes sense. It's just when you're in a draw and one person for some reason doesn't take the draw, but there's no action, and we just like I don't know, you have to go to a restaurant or something and you don't want to lose the rating. That's why threefold repetition exists. So if they just keep playing the same moves, then I mean it's just a draw. But yeah, threefold repetition can be used like this, and to screw up yourself. You can also use it like get a very steady position when you're down a piece, and let your opponent only have like one move without blundering a piece, and you just do the same move so you can get a draw when you're down a bishop. It can be used for good and for bad, but when it's for bad, you usually try not to make that mistake. So that's en passant. Okay, this last thing doesn't really have a name, so I can't start with underscore 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 is a something that's really important or whatever. So we're just gonna say this is a very important thing that you really need to know to play chess. Like, for example, in this position, where white is about to lose this bishop, so he just does some trash, and he thinks, I mean, I have 2 knights, I have a rook, so if they take my bishop with their rook, giving me check, I will castle. But I can't castle. And you're probably asking me right now, like, bruh, why can I not castle again? Excuse me? And that's the thing. When you would be allowed to castle, but your opponent has given you check, at least for that move when you're in check, you can't castle. I don't know why this exists, honestly. Like, I can understand, if a rook is in the way of you castling, then you can't castle, because it's like your king is going through a castle, like in its castle, and if a rook can take it in the castle, then it's the same thing as a king being taken. So I guess then it makes sense. But this, I mean, you're in check, so we move away while running away in the castle. But that makes no sense. But that's that. I mean, yeah, when you're in check, you can't castle. So in this position, for example, if you plan this whole thing out, like then you would castle and you'd be able to make an attack, and you relied on being able to castle, then you'd be kind of screwed. Um, there's no exact line where you would be screwed. Like if here, then you're just, I mean, you're screwed. If here, I'm in check. Wait, check. Give me. There. Um, you have here, but then you trade rooks. It's just your whole plan falls apart. So that's one thing I wanted to share this video because it could be really, really, really annoying to have your plan fall apart because you didn't know this rule. So you gotta tell me in the comments you're welcome for sharing this rule. Do it right now in 3, 2, 1. If you didn't do it, I don't know what to tell you. Mostly because I didn't plan this comment. I should just end the video now. Bye.